Hello Reavers fans, it's Pete here, all out on my own again. I'm going to be running through with you some Shadespire cards. Now on Friday, if all goes according to plan, there'll be another battle report up. It'll be Khorne versus Orruk. Garrek's Reavers will be facing off against Ironskull's Boyz. So this deck is my Khorne deck, which I've built, this time specifically with the idea of taking down the Orruks. Now I couldn't decide which way I was going to play this deck, whether I was going to play an objectives deck or whether I was going to play an in-your-face deck. And as it's Khorne, I decided to go with in-your-face. Now I know that they're a bit glass cannon, so I've decided to try and work around that slightly, but my plan is to hit the Orruks as hard as I can whenever I hit them. I know I'm going to lose guys, so my plan is basically to try and do the damage as much up front as I possibly can when I hit him, and just hope that it's enough. So without further ado, let's take a look at the cards. We'll start off here with the objectives. I'll show you what I'm planning to get, and then I'll show you how I plan to get it. So my objectives. First one is a nice and easy one. Blood for the Blood God. Score immediately if 3 or more fighters make a charge action in this phase. Now I might not need that right at the start. My first phase may mostly be objective grabbing and stuff, but if I get the chance and I can do it, 3 guys charging, it doesn't have to be a successful charge, just a charge, and I get a glory. Might give me that point that I need to upgrade someone for the 4th and most devastating charge. Next one. Khorne cares not. Scoring an end phase if 5 or more fighters are out of action. Well, there's going to be 4 Orruks and 5 Khorne Reavers, so at some point there's going to be 5 people out of action. It begins. Scoring an end phase if at least 1 fighter from each warband is out of action. That's pretty much a given, and hopefully I get that card near the middle of the game. That is only slaughter. Score in the end phase if no fighter is holding an objective. Well, I don't think Robin's going to be going for objectives with his Orruks. He's going to be looking for a face-to-face meeting of minds, as it were, so that one should be fairly easy to achieve. Brawl, score in the end phase if all friendly fighters, at least 3, are adjacent to enemy fighters. Should be easy to pull off with Khorne. I've got the mobility here that I didn't have with my Sepulchral Guard when I put it in their deck. So this one should be easier. With a movement of 4 or 5 when inspired, I should be able to get where I need to be for 2 points. Endless Slaughter, it's a 3-pointer here, or a 3 glory. Score in the third end phase if 5 or more enemy fighters are out of action. It's almost a given. As with the other card, 5 people are almost definitely going to be dead by the end of this, and that's 3 objective points. Divide and Conquer. Score in an end phase if each player has at least 1 fighter in their own territory and 1 in the enemy territory. I reckon Robin's going to be coming after me, and if I can early on throw a few of my guys forward to keep maybe 1 or 2 of his guys in his zone, then that should give me that one easy. Conquest. Score in the third end phase if all of my surviving fighters are in my opponent's territory. I should be able to do that if I get the card. I've got the movement. If I need to do a last minute mad dash run into his zone, I'm pretty certain I can pull that off. Ploy Master. Score in the end phase if I play at least 3 or more ploys in the preceding action phase. Well, hopefully I will, so put that one in there for an easy glory. Superior Tactician. If you've seen our previous game, and if you haven't, it's up there. Robin used this to good effect to give me a sound thrashing, and I think that to score 3 objectives, or sorry, to score 6 objectives, shouldn't be too much work to do, especially with some of the cards I've got a bit easier. So a 3 more glory would be very nice indeed. Crushing Force. Score it immediately if a friendly fighter makes a successful attack that deals at least twice as much damage as required to take the target out of action. Now, Orcs have a lot of wounds to start with, I know, but I'm going to hopefully whittle them down with a few lesser attacks to get them nearly dead, and then I'm going to come in with someone like Sek or Garrek to hopefully smash them to pieces with a strength upgrade of some kind, and that will give me the Crushing Force. Plus it's a mid-turn glory, which is always handy to get. Supremacy. Whilst the rest of my deck is offensive, this one is an objective-based glory earner. If I can get that early on in the first turn, it would be perfect. I can quickly run around, grab some objectives, score 3 points, then use that to give my guys the much needed boosts that the Khorne guys really do need. So those are my objectives. Let's move on to the ploys. In fact, before I do the ploys, I'm going to do my upgrades. You've seen what I'm going to try and do to earn glory, and now you're going to see what I'm going to spend the glory on. So the first one there is Wicked Blade. Wicked! If you roll at least one crit with this attack, it gets Cleave. Now Cleave is great against the Orruks because they roll shields. It's 3 dice, I need swords, and it does 2 damage. The 2 damage is nice, but the 3 dice rolled is even nicer because that really does increase your chance of rolling a crit. And if you do that, the Cleave will take away their shield, which is the Orcs' only defense. Grizzly Trophy. Whilst I don't think Garrek's going to take many Orcs out, it'd be nice to maximise the number of glory I get when I do take an Orruk out. He's going to be the guy I'm going to try and send in when an Orruk's nearly dead. Take him out, get those 2 glory, and then just spend. Frenzy. Roll an extra attack dice when this fighter makes a charge action. That'll be useful with any of my big hitters. An extra dice is always a nice plus to have. Extra chance of crits, obviously, or just those swords that I need to roll all the time. Blood Slick. +1 defense on Garrek is nothing to be sneezed at, and those Orruks, once they start to get angry, can do a lot of damage, so the more I can protect him, especially with his other ability, if I get it off, which is Grizzly Trophy, the better. Berserk Charge. This is one of my favourite cards for Saic. Increases chances to hit from just swords and crits to swords, crits and hammers, which means he has a 4 and 6 chance of hitting somebody, or a 2 and 3 for those who like to, use maths. Whirlwind of Death, +1 damage to all attacks with a range of 1 or 2 on Karsus. Now he does 2 damage anyway. This will take him up to 3. And if you can get it off with another +1 damage, he could be doing a lot of damage to those Orruks. Great Fortitude, +1 wound is always handy. The Orruks are going to be doing damage and I want to try and go toe to toe with them. So I'm going to be getting this, put it on Garrek, or maybe Saic, because I want to keep those guys alive as long as possible. Shade Glass Sword. I like this one a lot. I've not used it yet, but I've liked it on paper for a while now. It's 3 dice and rolls hammers, and it does 2 damage. When you do that attack, you discard the upgrade, but on a critical hit it does +1 damage. You've got 3 dice, you've got a fairly good odds of rolling a crit. So 3 damage will really help, especially if I give it to one of the Chuckle brothers. So either Arnulf or Targor can have that. I'd probably give it to Targor out of the 2, because Arnulf already has something which will help him do extra damage with a crit, and Targor doesn't have anything. Great Strength, +1 damage. It's a given, really. I can either give it to Garrek to make him do 3 damage, or 4 damage once inspired, or maybe Saic to pump him up to 4 damage. Both of those guys are going to be terrifying. If I can get Karsus' other bonus off first, then this one, plus that, means he could be doing 3 or 4 damage as well, making him just as tasty. And the last one, Demonic Weapon. 2 dice, needs hammers, does 3 damage. Now every time you make an attack with it, they take a damage. My plan would probably be to give this to Targor or Arnulf, or possibly in a pinch Karsus, but only doing so if they've been given the extra +1 wound, so they can do the attack at least more than once. The other thing I'd be doing with this would be to look at maybe turning one of my other characters into a tastier target for the Orruks that they might go after. Doing so might then take the heat off of Garrek or Blooded Saic, depending on how Robin ends up playing, of course. So those are the upgrades. Let's look at the ploys and how I'm planning on actually getting there. The first one is Blood Offering. Choose a friendly fighter, they suffer 1 damage, but they roll 2 extra attack dice. If I can get someone like Saic or Garrek really meted up, this could really increase the chances of hitting an Orruk. And if I've got somebody who's already wounded on the field, this would really help me guarantee the chances of taking them down. So it is a double-edged sword, as it were, but at the same time I think it's going to be worthwhile if I really need to make sure I get one of those attacks off. Skulls for the Skull Throne. It's a reaction, so I can play it immediately, which is always handy, which is if a friendly fighter takes an enemy out of action, I can draw 2 power cards. The more power cards you can get in your deck at once, the better it is. You just get more opportunities to do stuff. Fueled by Slaughter. Play this after an attack action or ploy that takes a fighter out of action. A friendly fighter can make an attack action. Now, I'm hoping to get up close and personal with them. Any free attacks is going to be a bonus, especially if I can get one in there with Saic or Karsus, or Garrek, or maybe even Targ or Arnulf if I've got some of the boosts on them. Insensate. At some point, Robin is almost definitely going to be beefing up one of his guys to a point where he's going to be terrifying, and he's going to try and one-shot either Garrek or Saek. I'm hoping that I can play Insensate at the right point so that they can't take them out of action by reducing the damage to only 1. Rebirth in Blood. I haven't used this card yet. I'm not sure how good it's going to be, and it's a 50-50 chance of failure. But play this after an attack or ploy takes out my last surviving guy, and on a 50-50 roll I can take all the wound tokens off of them and place them on starting hex in my territory. I can't imagine how frustrating that will be for Robin if I get this off, especially if it ends up getting me in a situation where I can win the game because he didn't manage to finish my last guy off. Chances are I won't end up using it. I'm really hoping I just wipe the board with Robin and I've got all 5 of my guys left at the end. To be honest, I'll be quite happy with that. Boon of Khorne. Play this after a friendly fighter's attack action. Again, another reaction. And this attack action has to take an enemy fighter out of action. I can remove all the wound tokens from one of my friendly fighters. So my hope here is that at some point either Saek or Garrek will be wounded but not dead. I can take one of the Orruks out and I can just get some really needed wounds back on one of my guys. Possibly even Targ or Arnulf if they've taken a wound and they've got the demonic weapon. That would be quite funky. Cruel Taunt. Again, I've not really played this one yet, and it's got a 50-50 chance of not working, but it will just be a beautiful sight if Robin gets Gerzag inspired and I can then take that away from him straight away. It's cruel and it's a cruel taunt, and I just really want to try out and see how it goes. I'm not normally one for these 50-50 cards, but I've got a couple of them here now. Healing Potion. This is another 50-50, but it's guaranteed to heal me with at least 1 wound, maybe even 2. For that alone, it's worth it in my books, especially seeing as I'm going up against Orruks. I'm going to be doing a lot of damage to each other. Dual Strike. 1 fighter supporting the first attack action in the next phase is considered to be 2 supporting fighters. Whilst I've got the edge on numbers with Robin, I might find myself in a situation where I've only got 1 guy supporting one of my fighters. It would be really nice if I can get those double assist rolls, just to increase my chances of doing that a little bit more damage, seeing as I'm only rolling swords. And the last one, Mighty Swing. This is pretty much a given with Saek. 3 damage, if I can hit 2 or maybe even 3 of his guys, maybe with +1 damage on that, that would be pretty filthy. I was thinking that maybe I could use it with Demonic Weapon, but obviously each attack is going to take away 1 wound from him. So if I did it with Targ, he'd only hit 1 guy and then he'd be dead. So that really wouldn't work so much, but that's pretty much a given with Saek. And again, it's just something where I'm planning on bombing in, do as much damage out as possible before he gets wiped out. So that is my deck. I've got my guys, Arnulf and Targ, the Chuckle Brothers. I'll be using those mostly in a supporting role unless I can get some of those weapons out like Demonic Weapon or the Shade Glass Sword. Really beef them up a bit and then make them a viable 4th target for Robin to have to try and concentrate on. Karsus, I don't know how I'm going to use him as yet. I mean, his range attack is great, it keeps him away from the Orruks, but at the same time 1 damage is going to immediately inspire them, and I want to try and do the damage as much as I can, so I think I'm going to hold out for him, try and buff him a bit, and then get in there and use his Brutal Chop to do 2 damage, or maybe even 3 if he gets boosted. Obviously if he becomes inspired, then he hits his Savage Whirl, which targets all adjacent enemies, and that makes him suddenly a lot more useful. That'll probably come along after the Chuckle Brothers are dead, and an Orruk. And then I've got my 2-star players, Saek and Garrek. Now Garrek's not quite as much of a damage dealer, but he does roll hammers, as does Saek. He also has 4 wounds, so he's going to stay around in combat a little bit longer. Plus if I can get an upgrade or 2 on him, he'll be a bit more survivable, and then hopefully he'll start attracting a bit more attention. My key aim here is maybe if I can get Supremacy early on to grab those 3 early objective points, and that might throw Robin off as well. If he sees me going for objectives, he's going to think I'm not going for an offensive deck. But once I can get a few objectives, grab a few glory, I can then hopefully load up some of my guys with some of the scarier things like Demonic Weapon or Shade Glass Sword, and I can suddenly smash 1 or 2 of his guys out pretty quickly. Once I've got 1 or 2 of his guys down, he's going to be on the back foot, and then hopefully from there I can just mop up the remainder. The key worry with the Orruks is obviously because they're quite strong, because they've got a lot of wounds, and because they are all shields, they're going to be harder to take out. So I need to make sure that I burn down one at a time wherever possible. I don't want to just inflict 1 or 2 wounds here or there, because I'm going to make them that much more survivable. If I can make sure that I burn down one Orruk at a time with a sustained number of charges, it'll be worth it, even if I just take one Orruk out in the first phase alone. Not just for the glory, but just taking 1/4 of his army away. Just means that he'll have that one less body to throw around where he needs it to be. I know that some of the Orruk cards also need at least 3 people to score the objectives, so I'm really hoping that within the second phase I can take out a second guy, just to try and remove some of the chances of some of his objective scoring capabilities. But anyway guys, that's my deck. We'll see how it fares. Robin won't see this before the actual game, so it will be a complete surprise to him. Likewise, he's doing a video for his deck, which will be a complete surprise to me, but I'm kind of assuming that Orruks he's going to be going offensive, so I'm ready for this one to be an absolutely mega bloody battle. If you've got any questions, any advice, tips or tricks, it'll be too late to give them to me before the game because we'll have already shot it by then, but do leave them below. Let me know how you find this deck, or if you've played anything similar, or if you think any of my tactics are sublimely gifted or just absolutely friggin' stupid. Until next time, AOS fans, bye!